Right, so my Smart Lunch talk today is on the UX relationship with the physical world. And some of you probably have seen part of this talk already in the studio meeting, but I've kind of adapted that and added on some other elements. The reason why I wanted this talk is because I think in this day and age in our industry is definitely heading towards and away from the kind of 2D screen and moving into the physical world. And there's so many different elements helping focus and make that happen. But I think it's really important also looking at like where UX is and where it has been before. So before the term UX was invented, it existed all around us. And I think this is very true. I think UX before the birth of the first computer and before it even became a job title, it existed with product design, it existed with architecture, it existed around us. And I feel that it's only been coined recently and put into a digital perspective. So for example, this is a very a simple object. It's just the ice cube tray. An example, someone's thought about the user. It's like, well, I want to design something that's easy to fill, easy to empty, and maybe easy to fill and empty. So it's interesting to think that with objects that people might consider product design, it is UX, and it's all sort of synced together. So architecture and UX. My background, as probably you may know, is in architecture and architectural lighting, and I find it's very interesting with the relationship between UX and architecture because there's so many similarities, but there are a lot of differences as well. So this first section, and a lot of you might have seen this bit, is taking you through this and identifying what these are. There's a really nice quote to start us off. Undoubtedly, architecture, UX, and UI design have many similarities, and both are fundamentally about people and empathy. So it always does come down to the user with both, and I think that will always exist. So what are the differences? Maturity, obviously architecture starting around sort of 10,000 BC, and then the birth of the first computer in the 1960s. So this is quite an obvious one for the product, the physicality, and there's a digital element to it between the two. So research. So I feel that architecture helps shape, a good way of saying it is that the product helps shape the user of architecture. And with UX, the user helps shape the product, if you like. So both of them are always about the user, but I still think there are a few more differences when it comes down to explaining it with the context. So I think with architecture, there's a lot more about the surroundings, the history that can help design affect the final design, where obviously just UX is solely focused around the user. Lifespan, obviously, this is, for example, residential buildings last up to about 100 years. Because it's a sort of fast-growing industry, it changes over maybe in 1 year. Responsibility. So we all know architecture has a lot of legal implications, health and safety. I think this is a good example to start you off. So you probably recognise this. This is the Walkie-Talkie building in London, and this is actually quite an interesting story. So when this was designed, there was a lot of talk around this. Does anyone know why? You probably do have some. Anyone who hasn't been through the thing, yeah.
Is it because of the curved screen on the glass?
Yeah, why?
The way it curves.
Okay.
On the inside of the glass.
Well, no, architecturally that is amazing, but it's not the legal implications of what happens.
It catches the sun, and then it reflects the sun into things nearby, which melted, like cars and stuff.
Oh.
Death ray. Yes, this is, and I try to find the most exaggerated quote, but Daily Mail always has it there for it. So what happened was that the architect thought about 36 degrees for where the focal point of where the building's reflections were focused onto London, but what actually happened was 72 ended up melting a car. And of course, yeah, and if I go back one more just to show you. So you see here, this is on the right hand side what it was, and this is what it is now. They had to build a whole new facade to cover it, which is really a joke.
The reflection?
Yeah.
The glare?
Yeah, because they didn't realise it would be on this focal point and was causing so much damage. I think there's legal and costly kind of implications of it.
You got one job, guys.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting now looking into UX, and I think UX definitely has a lot more responsibility, and I think it's definitely true with Tim Keynes' last project. Moving into surgical healthcare, there's I think a lot more responsibility and legal implications when moving into this kind of field. So it's been interesting to see where this heads. So authorship. So I think there are a lot of big names out there in architecture, and there always will be, because I think a building has such a legacy to it, because it's going to be there for a certain amount of time, maybe for 150 years, depending. So it has to be taken down again. But with UX, if you become famous, you might be famous for 15 minutes before the next new thing overtakes, and then you're kind of outdated, if you like. So this is a very brief overview looking at this, but this is kind of the processes between the two. You see there's quite a lot of similarities to them, and obviously there's a bit more of a kind of agile work methodology here. But for architecture, assignment analysis, functional design, and aesthetic design kind of going around before it goes to construction. Same with UX, with UI and UX before you get to a point, and then you can go on to development. So affordance. So we all know, being a UX designer, you will create affordance to a certain button because you want someone to go in a certain direction for you. And I feel this is very true in a simpler term for architecture. An architect will want to design a door to look like a door, so it doesn't look like a window, so someone clearly knows, I need to exit and entry. I think there's a lot more complex natures to it. So this is really an example which was done by two architectural studios called the End of Sitting. So the idea about this was installation, but they really wanted to create affordance to the fact that people were sitting, the unhealthy balance of people's sitting style in an office. As we all know, there's been a lot of encouragement to try and make people change positions rather than just sit in the same position the whole day. So what they wanted to do is create these various seating arrangements where people would only sit for probably about 18 minutes because they felt so discomforted. So they would actually move on to another position. And yes, this is not the ideal way to solve this problem. But at the end of the day, they definitely said they felt more energized from their changing their seating.
Should have just said floor. Yeah. Sit on the floor. Sit on that floor.
Well, there we go. Maybe this is the answer. But it's interesting to create affordance to that sort of issue, if you like. So prototype differences. We all know similar prototypes that we are using in Vision. I think a really important thing, the difference between architectural prototypes and UX prototypes, in fact, there's definitely, with UX prototypes, such as in Vision and everything else, you're going to get a lot more realistic outcome compared to architectural prototypes. And I think this is true because, when you're using a high fidelity version on the user, they're not getting that much difference between the finalized kind of developed app. It is pretty much exactly the same to the final. Here are some of the examples which I did when I created university. So you've got some laser cut scaled models here, and then 3D sort of working renders. And I feel this is quite interesting because the fact that where UX and architecture is collaborating at the moment is because we're creating these kind of virtuality sort of experiences to potential developers who might be going into a building, or people trying to get planning permission, or even if you're trying to go and rent out a new place. There's all these kind of experiences happening. So what are the similarities? So this is a great one. Architectural design is basically user experience design on a physical and spatial level, where space is just another medium and buildings and structures are interfaces and frameworks that users can interact with. The building then is a tangible version of a mobile app. This is given by David, who is a lead UX and UI designer, but a former architect. And it's quite interesting getting some of the viewpoints that these people have transitioned, because at the moment there is a lot of transition from architecture over to UX. So these are 6 points by the Polish architectural studio GEMS, and it's some of their 6 design principles. And while looking at this, you can see from the first one here, it's user experience. So that's obviously going to reign true for both these disciplines. Looking at the rest of them, we've got clarity of form, consistency of form, function. And I think while looking at those, when you're designing something, you always want the user to be able to understand where they're going and understand where they have to go and act within the website. But I think the main thing was quite interesting is the 6th point here. Truth about material and natural materials. So in architecture, everyone loves, more of a natural material, rather than flimsy plastic kind of covers that might be like wood, you probably want the real deal with kind of mahogany or real concrete, or, I think people are very much more comforted by the natural materials around them rather than artificial ones. And I think this reigns true for some UX as well and UI when it comes down to materialistic design. So people always much more comfortable with maybe a physical paper-like feel that they naturally didn't get in the world when comparing those. Bad user experience can exist across both disciplines. This is true, this will always be a fact, and it will never change. But as you can see on this fantastic design on the right-hand side. So where UX and architecture can entwine. So this is an interesting point. I was looking at where cinema can maybe predict where architecture and UX can collaborate, and there's a few clips that I'm trying to shorten down and trying to not include some of the audio because I know it's a bit dodgy and we're showing on Bluetooth. We'll have a go anyway. So this is one scene from Black Mirror, as probably many of you have seen, and this is a scene when he's in his own bedroom in this kind of dystopian future, but you see he's sort of reacting with his environment just with a flick of his hand without even having to touch or say anything. Now the second one is from Cloud Atlas, so this is taking them to the next level. And I apologize for the lag. So the whole idea about this is, it's basically blurring the lines between the digital and physical world, which I find really fascinating. And yes, this is a movie concept, but I think this is totally doable in the foreseeable future. And the idea that you can press a button and then you can change your complete environment is fascinating. And this can be true not just for interiors, it can be true for exterior as well, the building. You're changing the exact way how every day doesn't necessarily mean that the structure can't change, but it's interesting what could be. So this next point is quite interesting. Can the combination of UX and architecture design help shape our mental states? So because I worked in architectural lighting before, the whole idea about you designing an environment for people to be in, and I think one of the best examples of using this is, for example, in McDonald's or any high fast food restaurants. So they have very high level amounts of lighting, because they want high turnover people. Then you go on the other side and you have a jazz cafe, and then you have a really nice low level lighting. People relax and calm, they stay there for longer. This is true for this next, the potential of where this next can go. So this is from Danny Boyle's film Sunshine. So who's actually seen this film before? Oh, okay, one person. So they're aboard a spaceship going to save the Earth. And,
That's called in.
okay, there we go. But they have this kind of therapy room where they can go and experience and calm themselves down. And I've actually got another example where NASA's currently trying to do this on a low level, but for the astronauts, it's kind of lower stress. So with that, in fact, with that idea, can you think of potential, say, for a working environment, right? You have, at the moment, it's pretty standard, but you think if you can make an environment that doesn't seem like a work environment, maybe, for example, that you could feel like you're outside on a pleasant day rather than being inside with these senses. I think the potential for this kind of tech and with design, with architecture, collaborating, would be really fascinating, completely change how people operate on it. So with that, there's actually a real kind of example of this. So this is Deloitte's new headquarters in Amsterdam called The Edge, and it has 20,000 sensors that kind of micromanage sort of light and humidity to make you feel like you're outside on a pleasant day. Pretty fascinating, this is kind of taking back, maybe not as dramatic as the last kind of video you saw. So this is another example, but this is more focused on being more energy efficient. So there's Microsoft's campus in Washington, and they have about 30,000 pieces of mechanical equipment hiding into this sort of indoor Bluetooth sort of system that's integrated to the whole of this campus that can identify how many people are in a building at a certain amount of time. And yes, this can be done in single buildings, but I think the whole idea about having this smart network is building all together so you can have a larger database and find out sort of better details of how much people are going to be in a sort of building, but how long you might have to keep the lights on, the heating on, and save a large amount of energy. The smart cities. This is a big topic at the moment, and I think this is probably the biggest part where UX and architecture is at the moment. Think of any smart tech in cities at the moment. Any ideas? What's currently going on? Anyone?
Isn't there something somewhere where they can make it like do fake rain? Did I read that somewhere? New scientists in China.
Fake rain.
And it like washes the pollution out the air.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Don't quote me.
Yeah.
Might not be true.
That is amazing. You're actually making that up. That's really that's so cool.
The new Bloomberg building has wings on it that track the direction of the sun, so they can gather energy. And I think rainwater from the roof and stuff like that, which is pretty stunning. So.
Yeah, I've actually worked on a project once where we had infrared sensor that followed the natural sunlight. So we would either there were two ways about it. We would deflect the sunlight coming in, so we would shutters, or actually infiltrating in, because it was a theatre. So the whole point was creating what you can do that. To this, there is a lot. So even currently in healthcare, energy utilities, transportation, governance, building infrastructure. I think in healthcare is quite an interesting one. So, for example, my girlfriend the other day actually had this for remote diagnostics and treatment. So before she would have to travel quite far to go and see her GP, and probably realistically have to wait to actually get seen. But what you can do now, you can arrange over a Skype call, and you can get yourself on a sort of diagnosis, which is much more efficient. Obviously, there's wearable and health tech, such as Fitbits and whatnot. And I know at the moment it's probably gathered to one large data source, but if it can be used maybe for a certain city's hospital or NHS, and try and focus, we can try everyone else through it. So in 2018, there was about 80 billion invested in smart city tech. And by 2021, there'll be 135, which is amounts. It's quite exciting, and especially as our role of UX designers designing in it. So this is a really cool example. This is quite similar to London, Iron City, I suppose. So they have, first of all, using GPS sensors, they track real-time information to locate the buses. And I know we have that at the moment, but what they also have, which is really interesting, they have sort of using traffic signals to detect buses that change the faster. So this goes back into having, especially with transportation and air pollution, and making these smart meters around the whole of their kind of transportation to make it a lot faster and get people where they need to be as well. And also having less gridlock, which is a huge one, and I think they're nailing that also in Copenhagen with some of the sensors that are trying to tell people to go in certain directions in gridlock, and they'll be taking the right way, and maybe everyone will get to their destination much faster, and it'll be all spread out, that is. So I think with all the positivity of all this new tech, there definitely is a lot of negativity that also has to come with it. There is a lot of potential of hacking that can portray all these cities. Has anyone seen Die Hard 4?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of, and that was quite a long time ago as well.
Yeah.
But they managed to cause widespread chaos within the whole of the city of New York. But here are some real examples. So in 2018, there was an accidental missile alert in Hawaii that sent all the residents scrambling in chaos. This was actually human error. This wasn't a hack, but really interesting afterwards, that followed. that set off Dallas's tornado sirens. You know, people cause the same sort of outcry of kind of chaos within the city. So it's scary to think that people might be getting these ideas from this and the potential of how easy it might be to infiltrate a lot of this. And I think the biggest responsibility and movement in the UX industry is moving towards cybersecurity, and I think that's definitely something that will be very interesting in the future. This is more the internet of things rather than the smart cities, but this actually happened last week, so I thought I really wanted to include it. So it happened with someone's Nest camera, and what happened is that they heard a noise that was followed by a message that claimed there was like 3 ballistic missiles entering into the States from North Korea. So I think the family hid under the table for really like 10 minutes until someone turned on the TV, and then they found out it was a hoax. But I think it's interesting mentioning this because you've got a very large scale, and then you've got something which is way more on the small scale, can't infiltrate your home. It is your home, and I think that's something that's quite scary also, and especially a lot easier to. So like I said before, I think that brings a huge amount of responsibility for us as UX designers to try and help shape and design responsibility. So while leaving sort of architecture behind, I kind of want to leave this part of the section of the talk with this. While exploring the way in which architecture and UX can combine, you can see the ways in which digital becomes physical. However, looking at the next topic delves into how the physical becomes digital. And with that comes VR, obviously. So this is a quite interesting example, and I don't know if any of you maybe seen this one before. So this is from Danke, who is using the tilt brush to explain isophotic depression. So you can see on the side here, she was having feelings of feeling this prickliness all up her body and having this fire sensation going up and down her body, and the doctors had no idea how to cure her or what was going on. So she found it very fascinating and helpful way to maybe show the doctors and anyone who's trying to cure her exactly what she's feeling at the time. And I think it's kind of a mental, helpful way to describe and kind of having this exist with her, kind of carry on with it, I suppose. So this goes back to my next point, so the last point which we had about the spaceship. So they obviously had that amazing environment room where the astronauts could go when on the spaceship. So this is actually what's happening at the moment. This is focused on the future missions for NASA. So this is from Metablock, who are an amazing tech company who are focusing on having VR, a VR game that would help assess the mental states of a lot of the astronauts who are going on these long missions. And I think this is very true because we have, upcoming the Mars mission, which is probably the biggest exploration mission by man that existed. And I think one of the main things is how do we know how these astronauts will survive in their mental state while going on this huge journey. I think this is sort of that. So this next scene, I wanted to show a couple of clips from some of the work I did out in Lesbos in Greece. So this is for a charity called Lighthouse Relief. And I went out there about for a month and worked there at Search and Rescue Brigade, which was focusing on trying to rescue into Europe, and mostly Lesbos, but is part of Greece, so it's part of Europe, and they were coming over from Turkey. So I won't go into that, but I really wanted to add enough value into the, and so I decided to get a 360 camera, and I brought it out with me, and I tried to film some of the roles within the organisation, and also I really wanted the user, or anyone who was going maybe purchase or donating to the charity, maybe put them in a position of like to actually be there. So I'll show you some examples. And I'm sorry, this might be very laggy again. So this first one was when we were on the rescue boat patrolling. And all of this you can see here, this is all visible and accessible by VR as well, but this is the purpose of it. And yeah, this is way too laggy. So I'll take you to the next one. So this one was quite a powerful one, actually. So you can see here, this was, it looks like a junkyard to you, but what actually is about 3 meters high of life jackets left over from a huge surge of refugees that actually came over in 2015. And when they were all discarded on the whole of the beach, from what happened, they were all picked up and dumped in this one location. But yeah, it's about 3 meters high. And it's quite a powerful video. And this is one example of like maybe having someone where you can input someone into this kind of position so they can kind of experience something a bit different from a standard 2D screen on a video, which still is very powerful, but maybe trying to find another way to engage people. And I think VR has a very interesting direction and a future in this, definitely. Well, I was going to bring my headset, but I think that might have taken a bit too long. So moving on to AR. So I think with AR, I think it's a lot more present at the moment than VR because it's very accessible. You can bring out your phone, you can access so many of these apps, and it's very straightforward. I know VR has a lot more steps and kind of head towards before they get into a bit more sort of user-friendly way rather than putting these clunky headsets on, if you like. So you're probably very familiar with, the IKEA app, which is revolutionizes maybe how people might be buying furniture for their home. And then Pokemon Go, which isn't as revolutionary, but is revolutionary in the fact of getting people engaged with AR. So this one was, I think, it's an interesting point of where education can be involved with all this. So this is a colouring in book where you can see it's kind of has the physical elephant there. And I know this is a simple version or a simple example, but I think it's quite fascinating to see where this sort of tech can move towards. And I think with VR especially as well, and I know we've kind of gone off that, but with the idea of bringing, especially with history, and bringing people back to any kind of time period setting and making them understand it a lot more. So RFID tags, and I know there was a talk done quite recently, done by Neil, who came in to do a talk on his studio designing for these kind of new tech tags. So this is an example I'm going to show you next, was from Batty Cats and Dogs Home. And they have an amazing outdoor campaign which was using this kind of tags that were input into these leaflets, and people were picking them up, and then there was this dog following them the whole rest of the journey. But I don't really need to explain too much, and I'll just show you. So you see them going along, and with them, what's happening, the sensors obviously following them as their journey going through Westfield, and there's so many screens in Westfield that this dog would follow them the whole rest of their journey going through. And a lot of people wouldn't realise what's happening until about 5-10 minutes in. And I apologise for the lag again. You're probably thinking this is very cute, this is lovely, and it is, but you have to think on the other side, this is a lovely charity thing, but what could it be used for? Pressing sales, targeting you when you really don't want this? You're probably thinking this. Is it, does it comply with GDPR? And funnily enough, at the moment, it really doesn't have much effect because they've got bigger fish to fry and they're not generally targeting it, but there are kind of recommendations on implications on how to deal with radio frequency identification tags. So, how many of you have seen this film before? No? Does everyone know roughly what this is about, even if you haven't seen it? So, to give you a quick little background to this, this is a film that's come quite recently, been quite a big hit, that was focused on this future world where everyone was so obsessed with VR and they had almost this virtual world that every day they would wake up, they would put on the headset and it would be in the world, if you like. And yeah, this is based in the future, but at the moment this is actually happening. Decentraland. Anyone heard of this? So I hadn't actually heard of it until I was researching this. this is based, and this is built by Argentinian developers that wanted to make this kind of virtual world. And yes, this would be accessible from your laptop as well, but it's mainly just through a VR headset. And real estate for this is going crazy. People are spending millions of dollars and pounds on buying plots of land. So it's quite fascinating. I'll show you some of the kind of examples. So this is a lovely quote from one of the users. I'm planning on building a virtual reality art gallery, and I'd like to set up a system where artists can showcase their art and maybe get a cut, and maybe Central gets a cut, and artists get theirs too. Now to show you a little bit on how it kind of works. So you see this is a gridlock sort of system here. So their first city that they made has about 90,000 square 10 by 10 meters parcels of land, and they've auctioned up to about 22 million pounds. And one of the examples here, as you can see the little red dots in the middle there. So this is a Row fashion boutique, and this is all done by Mana, which is a cryptocurrency. So this cost about $700,000. Right, and there's a 10 by 10 sort of square meters of land they made into a shop. So it was quite interesting with the guy who was from the last quote. He wanted, he thought his investment, it was kind of like a crypto bubble, because a lot of people invest in crypto in it, and people think it might be that, but for this, it will be a huge for this, but right now, who knows if this is exactly going to be this. So they're trying to attract visitors, and their plans to build themed neighborhoods like Festival Land, Vegas City, and even a university in this virtual land. So who knows what's possible. This guy also, he commented the fact that he would love to just go in there, meet his friends, go and have a tea with friends in the virtual world, meet up in a coffee shop there. So it's quite, it's fascinating, but I think there's a lot of worry that people might kind of be so engaged with this that they might leave behind their real lives in a certain way. And this is really...
It's like Second Life, basically, but on blockchain.
Yeah, but I don't know if Second Life you can do VR with it. I think it's just...
I don't think it's VR.
No, because I looked that up and So the Second Life is a good example as well, but doing something where you can totally immerse with a virtuality kind of world with it, and it's quite fascinating. That's actually getting live quite soon, so I'm quite interested to world itself. So this is going to leave you with this kind of bit. So this is from Inception, and this is kind of like a iconic scene for me, where Leonardo DiCaprio comes down, and Inception, as you probably know, they go into a dream state. It's kind of like the world, and he comes like, they come here every day to sleep? ? No, they come here to be woken up. The dreams become their reality. And this is, I know I'm taking the piss at the moment from this, but there is a very true possibility that people really won't be living their lives in the real world and they'll have a much better. I was going to use the Inception music to end on this, but I thought I want to be a little bit too much.
You should spin your spinning top at the end of the meeting.
So to finally leave all this, it's interesting how the lines are beginning to blur between physical and digital. Where will this lead us next? Designers working in both the digital and physical space will have to uphold a massive amount of responsibility as we delve into this exciting and potential unnerving new chapter. Thank you very much. Questions? Cool. You're all ready for the future, then?
Ready to go.
Norwich? You still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't think I have a question as such. Perhaps an observation. I would note that we are not a user experience agency. We are an experience design agency. So and for many years, we've said that our domain as designers is entirely, it includes the physical world as well as what happens on the screens. So this is for me very interesting because it reminds us about the kind of emerging convergence of those two worlds and particularly technologies that are making that happen. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
I really like your comparison of architectural the requirements versus the lack of any tech-based app requirements.
What a bad computer.
And the differences. Just in terms of, our architects can, probably face a lot of fines for making a bad decision, whereas on the technical side, well, it's all still very new market in terms of legalities.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I think, actually, funny enough in that, and I know I was heading in this direction, but I reckon it's going to flip. So I think the outreach where you can get with a certain software, right? And say if it's heading into surgical healthcare, say if it's so widespread and something goes wrong, that's going to be way bigger than a building, even if it's as large as the walkie-talkies.
It's definitely going to.
So I think it's really interesting to see how that happens, but yeah. Cool. Okay. Thanks. All right. Sweet.
Thank you.
Join us today.